What is going on, everybody? And in this video, I'm giving you a state of the market and stock picks for March 18th, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, looking for daily and weekly updates, consider subscribing. So now we are looking at the state of the market. As we talked about yesterday, if you haven't followed me, I think it's important to watch that video I did yesterday. It also has a little bit of educational knowledge as well in it. But coming into today, we are post Powell. We've had digestion of what's going on. That we are 25-point basis rate raise and looking to add possibly a couple different rate raises in the upcoming meetings. Now, one thing I need to clarify is the next meeting actually is not till May. So we got about another 2-month span in which we will not really be hearing nothing from the Fed unless something dramatically changes. But essentially the way the Fed has been moving, I don't see them trying to have any kind of emergency meeting and trying to raise rates any faster than they already are, especially because of the fact that they are continuing to buy bonds. So being said, the market started to rip today. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. We needed to get clarification today. And today we saw that. We saw a bit of a bump. Then the market was kind of slowing down, looked like it wanted to sell. Then it flipped and started really running. It was very misleading today. Yes, there is a lot wrong in the world, but you still have to understand the market is going to continue to push up. And that is exactly what it's doing. Even for me, it was surprising today for it to just start randomly pushing up. A lot of technicals looked like everything was going to roll over. And then all of a sudden, it flipped and just started running. Again, you have to go with the chart. We broke trend. We broke this channel that we've been sitting in for quite a while on SPX. And we're starting to break some key levels. Tomorrow is going to be very important because we're going to actually start breaking some of these key levels. But as far as the state of the market goes, I am pretty bullish until May. Unless something dramatically happens with Russia and Ukraine, either one, there's a ceasefire, which will only fuel the fire to make all-time highs. But if for some reason China decides to enter, which there was more news that China was saying that they're not siding with Russia, which also helped fuel the fire today, I think all that is good news, and all that is going to continue to push this market up. And right now it's looking like we could possibly revisit all-time highs. You have to remember we opened up one of the worst years in decades with that 15% correction almost straight out the gates in the new year. So we have some time to make up. And I think we can. I think now that we got clarification on kind of what's going on, we actually have a rate raise. I think the market is ready. The market waited all the way until yesterday to determine what was going on with the markets. Now that we kind of know where the Fed stands at, the fact they're still buying bonds, there's a lot of bullishness just in that in itself. But again, we got the news essentially that China was kind of standoffish with trying to side with Russia. And I think that ultimately just fueled the fire and started to cause everything to start pushing up in general. So going into tomorrow, I really want to see this. I think is a very key level here. This 44.16 mark, if we can hold above that tomorrow, if we can open above that tomorrow, or even possibly push and then retest it and hold it, is kind of what I'm hoping we can do. I think we can really start getting quite a bit of a rally here. Again, after this quarter ends, the first quarter of the year will end at the end of the month, and then we'll start rolling into earnings. But with all the bad news and stuff, we went through earnings, and just because of what was going on in the world, the market didn't care. We knew Powell was going to come in, the Fed was going to come in with rate raises, so we just continue to sell even through earnings. So this earnings, I think the pre-run up for this earnings is going to be the biggest move. Again, once we actually have earnings, and then this is when I start talking about sanctions. This is when I start talking about lockdowns in China. This is what's going to hurt the markets. Again, I think it's going to be a very small volatile move. I don't think it's going to devastate and crush the market, not at this point. Again, we have to keep revisiting this every time we have a Fed meeting. But from now until May, I am very bullish in this current window until something changes, until there's new news from the war or there's new news from the Fed, which again, I don't expect to hear anything from the Fed until May. Aside from that, I don't really expect much more new news aside from a ceasefire with Russia and Ukraine, again, which could really fuel the fire for this thing to really start getting red hot and pushing to all-time highs very quickly. And I'm talking about a parabolic move could possibly be on the table if that decides to happen. So being said, I want to position myself in some of these better companies again, but I want to make sure that we break this level. Watching this very closely tomorrow, watching the stocks that I've been talking about, Tesla, UPST, your Googles, your chips, all those are going to be watched very closely for me tomorrow. And then again, trying to set myself up going into that. So the market in general, that's what I'm looking for. If we don't, we could reject and come back down. We could be just playing this range. I don't really see that unless, again, we get some really bad news. And even if we get bad news, it has to be severe for us to even come down and I think revisit this bottom channel. But we are hitting the 200. We could reject off of it and come back down. We have retested it once already, so this isn't the first retest. Normally on the second one, we can at least break it. The first one will typically reject it hard. That's what we got. Now we're revisiting it. We could possibly break this out and start running, especially with all the positive news that is going on right now. Again, the market is feeding off of hope right now. And when everything has been going bad for so long, now we start getting some positive news. The market's going to reflect that. So Bitcoin, this thing is winding up. I think ultimately, I think we'll wind through here for a little bit longer. Possibly, there's a lot of stuff going on with Bitcoin too, especially with regulations and everything. But ultimately, I think this is possibly winding and starting to break out. I wouldn't actually be surprised if we could actually be a wedge break right there in a retest. I wouldn't actually be surprised if we hit the 44K mark coming into this weekend. Will we break that? I don't know. I think there's, because of a lot of policy and potentially that's coming out, we might see longer consolidation on this until it actually starts breaking out and ripping. But that's what I got for Bitcoin. Tesla, absolute beast. We have broken the channel. We did do a retest today. I did not actually enter this. It looked like it was going to turn over, and this is what I was talking about this morning. It came out this morning, and I was watching this. Now, this is why this market has been very deceiving for the most part. Because the original line I had here, if I can get this correct the way I had it. Right, this morning it looks like we broke down and we were retesting, and we were starting to sell. Coming out of the gate, we started to sell, but as soon as we started selling off, we got, I believe it was a China news or something this morning, and this thing just bounced straight up, and then it just continued for the rest of the day. Now, again, I'm looking for it to come back down. We're over the 200. I wanted to hold some of these key levels. We are back over the 50. I wouldn't actually be surprised if we came back to the 50 and hit around that 820 before we started continuing up. Could be a possibility. It is Friday. People may not want to hold into Friday, so we may get a little bit of a pullback. We are starting to see it now, but I mean, we've gone straight up, so that's expected. But I want to see how this does work going into tomorrow. But Tesla is a big one I want to watch. Watch that level. We need to break this. This is another key level here. We've broken some good key levels. That was good. We needed to break 860. We broke that. We need to hold it. Another key level here is to watch is that 880 mark. If we can break that, then we get that 923 mark. If we can break that, I think we can go and hit 1,000 at that point. And again, if we start getting really positive news and ceasefire and everything, I think the market is just going to straight butter through all this, through a lot of these different resistance lines. and just start heading up. But again, you still have to be mindful, and the news has to come. You can't just think it's going to happen that way. It's not the way it works. UPST is another big one I want to watch. I've been talking about this all week. We actually had a wedge break. We got our first retest of the 115. So I'm expecting this to pull back a little bit tomorrow. I'm trying to actually get into it on the pullback tomorrow. So maybe watch that 106 mark tomorrow, and then look for potential continuation again, going into what I think might be a little rally here for bits. Again, we have a lot of positive news as far as the rates and everything, so that's what I'm kind of going off of. Again, things can change, but just remind yourself that it has to be new, fresh information. If it's not new, fresh information, I don't believe it's going to drive the market any further down than it already is. We have our rates. This is what we were waiting on. We went 2 years going off of a massive amount of money injected in the system. So we pretty much did nothing but push up. Now it's to the point to where, we had to do some kind of correction. We've got that correction. We spent 2 months, almost 3 months, trying to work out this correction. Now we got our answer. We got some rate raise. Now we can continue up. We do have the war, but again, there's no new news coming out of there. Stuff will be reflected in earnings, and that's how we're going to take it. Google, another big one. This one just broke out today too. It's been kind of lagging behind everything, so this is one I really want to watch tomorrow. You definitely don't want this to break back below the 2650 mark, but if it can hold up, again, I think this one will really start ripping back up, especially with earnings coming around and the market start getting parabolic. I think Google could really rip. You have a pretty strong key level here at the 2718 mark, and again, you have all the psychological levels, your 2700, 1800, your 1900. All those are all psychological levels that you have to be careful when you come around those levels, because you can get rejected pretty hard. LRCX is a big one I want to watch. Again, it's breaking out. All these are breaking out. Almost all these charts look the same, so you really have to pick ones you like. I really do like LRCX. I think it could really start making a comeback. I'm kind of watching if we could break this level. I'm kind of really watching that 600 mark is where it's going to aim for. Another big one I want to be watching going into the next couple of weeks, into May. And then once we get into May, we may revisit everything. We may get a double rate hike. The market may be okay with it. The market is expecting it. So as long as it's under what the market expects or equal to what the market expects, I think we will continue to just keep chopping and pushing up from that point. So again, once we get closer, I think if you get a ceasefire and everything, we might go parabolic till we get close to the all-time highs. Then we might just chop and push. You just got to be careful about that as well. Roblox is another big one. This thing has taken a massive beating during this whole 2 months. It is starting to turn. If we can get above this 48 mark, I want to take a position in this. Some of these I'm going to pick up shares in for the longer haul, and then some of these other ones I want to actually buy some options in, call options on these as we go up. So Roblox is a big one I want to watch. Again, if we can get above that level, then you got another pretty strong level here at the 60 mark, right? And then at the 74 mark. But I think it's been really hovering around that 80 mark for Roblox. So I think Roblox can really almost double its on this bounce. I think it can at least double this and then get back to those key levels. And then once it gets to that key level, I think it can continue to start push up. Again, a lot of these had some really crazy moves in the beginning of the year, or just before the beginning of the year. Do I see it going back to 140? I think that's kind of the whole metaverse hype kind of pushed up that high. But I do see it at least pushing back to at least that $80 mark, possibly even revisit 100. But they just released numbers, and their numbers are absolutely absurd. Just this is why I like Roblox. It's why I like UPST. Those are some of the biggest, I think, growth stocks of the year, and I think they will do very well in this upcoming year once we start reversing. And again, I don't think you're going to be seeing Roblox here at 40 for very long. I think we're really lucky to even see it at 36. Now we're seeing it at 46. We'll see if we can break that tomorrow. So that's one of them I do want to watch tomorrow. And another big one I want to watch is which I don't typically talk about, but it's been because I don't like the way it moves. But considering it's been taking such a beating, Palantir I think is really good. If it can hold above this 1238 mark tomorrow, if we can break above this and touch and retest and bounce, I want to take some share positions in this as well. Typically was floating around the 25. Again, I think we can still make it back to around that 18, possibly 20 mark. I think we're going to get back to at least some of these key levels before everything starts selling off. And will it continue to push all the way up? I don't know. Then at that point, once we start getting back to some of these normal key levels that we were at before, I think around the January timeframe, which if you've been trading a stock long enough, you know kind of the key levels where stocks have been floating at for a while, and it will typically push up or down from that point, but it'll always kind of return to that point. I think Palantir is kind of that $20 mark, so I'm kind of looking for that. I think the 25, it hovered for around a long time, but I'm not quite sure if we'll get to that just yet. But again, some of these are going to be, I think, the best times to buy in the year. And then after that, I think the market's going to return back to normal. It is election as well, so you got to be mindful of that later on this year as well. So, but I think this will be the best time to be buying because, again, I do believe, I did talk about yesterday about being possibly bearish towards the end, but right now I'm really seeing everything is we had such a horrible first 2 months that I think at this point, I think there's more positive than there is negative. Again, something else can come up. It's not saying something can happen with war. Yes, the numbers might be bad. I think that this first earnings coming up will probably be really bad because of the earnings, and they're going to have to adjust expectations and stuff like that. But I think, again, towards the end of the year, we'll start building up and we'll see better supply coming through once sanctions and stuff like that are possibly removed. Or not only that, but once people have adjusted to the sanctions or whatever the case is, and these companies are smart, they'll figure out a different way to make money. Especially this way, I always say go with the industry leaders because they are the ones that will bounce back. They're the ones that will figure it out. So that's pretty much what I got. I don't want to make this video too long. It is on the Friday, so there's not really a lot more going on. But hit that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one.